Not seeing my videos in your subscription feed? Make sure you've clicked the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of all my newest uploads.
Hey, what's up people? Pizzal here. Sit back, relax, and join me on an all expenses paid, fully guided tour of the Arrow Video Limited Edition Phantasm 1 through 5 box set. Now, I have to warn you, this is probably going to be a long video. I've got a ton of notes here. I've spent the past several days completely immersed in Phantasm, in everything Phantasm, to the point where much like the characters in the Phantasm movies, I've lost all grip on reality. I have no idea what's real. I have no idea what's... I just don't know anymore. I've spent way too much time in the world of Phantasm. But I've got a lot of notes here. I've got a lot to discuss here with this awesome box set from Arrow. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. The very first disc, of course, the original Phantasm. It is the remastered version of the Blu-ray that the Bad Robot Company did. So the picture quality and the sound quality are excellent. This is the best Phantasm has ever looked and most likely will ever look. So the picture quality and the sound quality are superb. As far as extras on this disc are concerned, we have Reflections of Fear, Realizing Phantasm. It's a brand new featurette in which those involved with the original Phantasm discuss the people and inspirations behind creating that film and how the film's success impacted their life. It's just over 27 minutes in length. This is an ongoing featurette that's broken down amongst all 5 of the movies. So for every Phantasm movie, there's a Reflection of Fear on that particular Phantasm film. Reflections of Fear, Realizing Phantasm. The first film includes interviews with Don Coscarelli, A. Michael Baldwin, Reggie Bannister, David Hartman, and Kathy Lester. Coscarelli discusses his local mortuary being the inspiration for Phantasm. Baldwin, Bannister, and Lester all discuss getting cast and working on the film. Coscarelli discusses that the Silver Sphere was inspired by a dream in which he was being pursued by a silver sphere. Coscarelli discusses the family dynamic in the film between Mike and Jody and how that became a driving force in the film. Coscarelli discusses trying to find a distributor for the film and the film's success around the world, particularly in Japan. The Japanese loved Phantasm. Baldwin and Lester discuss being mobbed by fans in Japan when they went over there to promote the movie. Baldwin compares it to Beatlemania, which it's interesting. Just over 27 minutes in length, a lot of information here about the making of the original Phantasm, a lot of details in here about the creation of the original Phantasm, including Don Coscarelli going off into a cabin in the woods all by himself to write the script for the original Phantasm, and how that kind of isolation definitely lent to the ambiguity, the dreamlike quality in the original Phantasm. Really nice, brand new featurette for the original Phantasm. We also have the Phantasm Remastered premieres. We have the Los Angeles premiere experience, in which you can watch the remastered Phantasm with an audience, with the audience reactions, at least, as an audio track from the Egyptian Theater premiere of the remastered version of Phantasm in October of last year. You've also got the Los Angeles premiere Q&A hosted by Joe Lynch and including Don Coscarelli, A. Michael Baldwin, Kathy Lester, Reggie Bannister, and Bill Thornberry. We have the Austin premiere Q&A hosted by Tim League of the Alamo Drafthouse, including Don Coscarelli, A. Michael Baldwin, Reggie Bannister, Bill Thornberry, and Kathy Lester. We have got Phantasm actors having a ball. It's about 4 minutes 40 seconds in length. It includes Kathy Lester, A. Michael Baldwin, and Bill Thornberry. They each talk about their experiences on the set of Phantasm, and we discover that A. Michael Baldwin was a bit of a boisterous kid, especially when it came to pulling pranks and stuff on Kathy Lester, who didn't have a lot of nice things to say about the young A. Michael Baldwin. We have got a 1979 television interview with Don Coscarelli and Angus Scrimm. It's just over 28 minutes in length. It's an oldie but a goodie. This is an extra that's been on Phantasm releases going all the way back to the old MGM DVD release. But it's a really nice extra, really nice interview with those two from 79. Coscarelli discusses the impetus of the film and the title, his thoughts on the horror genre, casting, locations, etc. Scrimm discusses developing the character of the tall man with Coscarelli. An oldie, but a goodie. A lot of information, a lot of detail about the making of the original Phantasm movie, and just a lot of insights from Don Coscarelli on, being a young filmmaker at that time, funding his movies, doing all the the hard work to get a movie together on that level as far as casting, location, scouting on a limited budget. And of course, you've got a younger, I guess you could say, Angus Scrimm talking about his early days as an actor, coming from the stage to the screen, working with Don Coscarelli on Jim the World's Greatest, and a lot of talk about, of course, the tall man. Really nice interview. And of course, it's from 79, so everybody's got, you've got the Staying Alive jumpsuits, the hair, a lot of chest hair going on, the very 70s. We've got behind the scenes footage with commentary by Don Coscarelli and Reggie Bannister. We've got deleted scenes and a promo gallery. There's also an introduction to the film by Angus Scrimm. We've got an audio commentary with Don Coscarelli, Angus Scrimm, A. Michael Baldwin, and Bill Thornberry. This is an old commentary. It goes all the way back to the MGM DVD release of the movie, but it is a very, very good commentary. I can certainly say that. So that is all for the Phantasm disc. On to the Phantasm 2 Blu-ray. The picture quality and the sound quality on this Blu-ray are both great. I'm not sure if it's the same transfer that was on the Scream Factory Blu-ray release of Phantasm 2 that came out a few years ago. I recall the picture quality and sound quality on that release being really good as well. The picture quality and the sound quality on this one is really good. Also, as far as extras are concerned, we have Reflections of Fear Phantasm 2. It's about 19.5 minutes in length. It includes interviews with Don Coscarelli, Reggie Bannister, A. Michael Baldwin, David Hartman, Mark Shostrom, and Dean Gates. Coscarelli discusses not wanting to do a sequel initially until he started thinking about what happened directly after the events of the first film. He hooked up with Universal Pictures, which at the time just happened to be, the head of Universal just happened to be a friend of Coscarelli's and a really big horror buff. A. Michael Baldwin discusses not being cast in the sequel. Coscarelli says it's the Faustian deal of working with a major studio. You get more resources, of course, as far as time, money, etc. But one of the sacrifices that he had to make was Universal wanted a working actor to play the Michael character. And as a matter of fact, he almost had to recast Reggie Bannister as well. They eventually said, that's fine, you can keep Reggie Bannister, but we want a working actor to play Mike in Phantasm 2. James LeGros was cast, Michael Baldwin. He auditioned, but he lost out, and he was very, very disappointed. Mark Shostrom discusses how Sam Raimi recommended him to Coscarelli to do the makeup effects on the film. He discusses designing the creature effects in the film, as well as working with Angus Scrimm, and Scrimm dubbing him the Julia Child of makeup effects, because at one point he was putting pieces of chicken onto Angus Scrimm's neck in the part where Angus Scrimm's face is melting because he's being pumped full of acid. Those little dangling pieces under his neck, those are pieces of chicken. Coscarelli does he seems a bit regretful of Phantasm 2 because of having to recast the role of Mike, and because of having to work with a studio. The movie was test screened, and so the ambiguity that ran throughout the first Phantasm and throughout really the other Phantasms isn't really present in Phantasm 2. Phantasm 2 is more of a straightforward sort of ABC kind of narrative, and that's because it was dictated to him that way by Universal. Universal did not want any ambiguity, so Phantasm 2 is the sans ambiguity Phantasm movie. 19 and a half minutes in length, a lot of information about the making of Phantasm 2, really nice brand new featurette for Phantasm 2. Next up, we have The Ball is Back. It's about 46 and a half minutes in length. It's a making of documentary from the Scream Factory Blu-ray release. It includes interviews with Don Coscarelli, Angus Scrimm, Reggie Bannister, Paula Irvine, Kenneth Tiger, Samantha Phillips, Philip Duffin, production designer, Darren Okada, the DP, and many more. A lot of people interviewed for this making of. Coscarelli discusses the pros and cons of working with a major studio, including not being able to cast a Michael Baldwin. They discuss how the movie turned Reggie into an action star. Reggie Bannister really sort of turned into a middle-aged, balding, hippie, former ice cream man action star in Phantasm 2. And that's one of the things I love about just the character of Reggie from Phantasm, is that he is a middle-aged, bald, hippie, former ice cream man who is now basically the hero of that series. So that's just one of the things I love about the Reggie character in the Phantasm movies. Scrim discusses how easy it was to slip back into the tall man character after the 9-year gap between the first Phantasm and this Phantasm. Bannister and Coscarelli discuss how intimidating Scrim is when he is in character as the tall man. Coscarelli discusses the ability to be a little more elaborate with the sequel, as he actually had a budget to work with, including grander action scenes and set pieces, etc., etc. Coscarelli discusses the MPAA being very restrictive with the film, and how the film was released in July in the midst of Roger Rabbit and Die Hard, and because of that did not have very much of a theatrical run. Very nice making of featurette. It was on the Scream Factory release, so if you did not get the Scream Factory release of Phantasm 2 on Blu-ray, you've got that great making of featurette here on this set from Arrow. Next up, we've got the Gory Days with Greg Nicotero. It's about 22 minutes in length. Greg Nicotero discusses working on Phantasm 2, specifically on the masks for the dwarves, the tall man melting at the end, the creature in the girl's back, the like slug-like tall man creature thingy, the priest getting his ear cut off by the sphere, etc., etc. Nice interview with Greg Nicotero. That was also on the other Blu-ray release as well. We've got behind-the-scenes footage, both on set and with makeup and effects. We've got an Angus Scrimm convention appearance from an 1989 Fangoria Weekend of Horror show. Very nice extra there. You can see how much Angus Scrimm loves playing the character, and how much Angus Scrimm loves interacting with the fans, both as Angus Scrimm and as the tall man. We get deleted scenes, we get work print scenes, we get trailers and TV spots, and a still gallery. We've also got an audio commentary with Don Coscarelli, Reggie Bannister, and Angus Scrimm. I know it's not a brand new commentary, but I'm not sure if it was on the Scream Factory Blu-ray release or not. I'm assuming that it was. I did not have an opportunity to listen to this audio commentary for Phantasm 2. But the Phantasm 2 Blu-ray on this set is absolutely loaded. You got a lot of oldies but goodies, and a very nice new featurette on here as well. Moving right along to Phantasm 3, the picture quality and sound quality on this disc are both very good to great, somewhere in the middle there. Picture quality and sound quality aren't quite as good as the Phantasm 2 Blu-ray. Of course, they're nowhere near as good as the 4K remastered original Phantasm, but they're both still pretty good. As far as extras are concerned, we have Reflections of Fear Phantasm 3. It's just over 23 minutes in length. It includes interviews with Mark Shostrom, Dean Gates, A. Michael Baldwin, and David Hartman. However, it's about 90% Mark Shostrom and Dean Gates. Shostrom and Gates discussed doing the makeup effects on Phantasm 3. They discussed doing them on a much smaller budget than they had to work with on Phantasm 2. They discuss a few of the different gags in the film specifically and how they pulled them off, including the demon nurse and the tall man's demise. I was a bit disappointed with this Reflections of Fear because no Don Coscarelli. I'd like to have known a lot more about the making of Phantasm 3 than just from the point of view of the makeup effects guys. I wanted to know about how the movie got financed. I wanted to know about just more about Phantasm 3, because I actually went back and rewatched Phantasm 3 before I dove into the extras on the disc, because I wanted to refresh my memory of Phantasm 3. And Phantasm 3 is a really fun movie. It's a little more comic than Phantasm 2 was, but I liked the new characters. Of course, I mean, I love Reggie Bannister. They had a lot of great ideas, new ideas, ambitious ideas in Phantasm 3, even though they were working with probably not even half the budget that they had with Phantasm 2. Of course, Michael Baldwin is back in the mix, but we mostly got 90% of this 23 minutes being about the makeup effects, and I was a bit disappointed. Even the audio commentary on the Phantasm 3 disc, it's Michael Baldwin and Angus Scrimm. Don Coscarelli is not even on the audio commentary for Phantasm 3. So I really wanted to know more about Phantasm 3 after watching the movie to refresh my memory of it. There's just not a lot, as far as extras are concerned, to sink your teeth into regarding Phantasm 3, which I thought was a bit disappointing. We've got some behind-the-scenes footage with optional commentary from Mark Shostrom and Dean Gates. We've got a deleted scene. We've got a trailer and a still gallery and an audio commentary with Michael Baldwin and Angus Scrimm. I watched about 15 to 20 minutes of the movie with the audio commentary. Of course, it's always awesome to hear Angus Scrimm talk about Phantasm and the Tall Man and so on and so forth. So, again, would have liked to have known more about the making of the movie from Don Coscarelli himself, but it is what it is. Moving on to Phantasm 4 Oblivion. The picture quality and sound quality on this disc were both very, very good. I thought the picture quality and sound quality on the Phantasm 4 disc were actually better than on the Phantasm 3 disc. I also went back and rewatched Phantasm 4 because I'd only seen the movie once. I remember renting it when it first came out on VHS and just not liking it at all, having no idea what was going on in the movie. It certainly looked and felt very low budget, and I was just pretty overall disappointed in the movie. Going back and rewatching it, still kind of a mixed bag, but I really liked the movie a lot more this time around than the first time around, particularly the ending of the movie. I thought the ending of the movie was, really quite, I don't know, a lot of different emotions about the ending of Phantasm 4, how they used a lot of the old unused footage from the first Phantasm to, they used a lot of that because of budgetary reasons, but also to sort of tie the two movies together, because this was originally going to be the final chapter in the Phantasm series. I like the ending. I like the ambiguity of the ending. I like it that it's kind of the Tall Man. It's very bittersweet. I'll leave it at that. I think the Phantasm 4 Oblivion ending, it's kind of bittersweet, but it's bittersweet in a really good, almost chilling kind of way. Really good ending. Great ending. As far as the extras on this disc are concerned, we have Reflections of Fear realizing Phantasm 4, rather. It's just over 17 and a half minutes in length. It includes interviews with Michael Baldwin, David Hartman, Mark Shostrom, Dean Gates, and Don Coscarelli. Baldwin discusses how they used a lot of the unused footage from the original Phantasm in order to attempt to tie the movies together, and of course, save money. Baldwin discusses how they pulled off the scene in downtown Los Angeles on a deserted downtown street. Downtown Los Angeles, completely deserted street sequence in Phantasm 4, and they discuss how they pulled that off. Of course, no budget, so how'd they do it? They got up at the crack of dawn on Thanksgiving morning. Don Coscarelli, a very small crew, Angus Scrimm and Michael Baldwin, and they just shot it really quick, guerrilla style, and that's how you get a scene in downtown LA in a completely abandoned, deserted street. Very interesting. They discuss how Oblivion was originally intended to be the final film in the Phantasm series. Baldwin, Sjostrom, Hartman, Dean, and Coscarelli share their fond remembrances of Angus Scrimm. Coscarelli discusses how Angus would call him whenever he got a new movie role and tell him all about it, and practically act out all of his scenes from the movie to Don Coscarelli over the phone. Don Coscarelli also discusses how Scrimm was an avid letter writer and shares a letter that Angus Scrimm had written him after completing the first Phantasm movie. Coscarelli says he misses getting these phone calls and letters from Angus Scrimm. Very nice, heartfelt, touching tribute to Angus Scrimm. Don Coscarelli talking about the letters and the phone calls, really, pretty emotional. Very nice reflections of fear for Phantasm 4. We've got 9 minutes and 18 seconds of behind the scenes footage. We've got a trailer, we've got a still gallery, we've got a promo for the film, and we've got an audio commentary with Don Coscarelli, Reggie Bannister, and Angus Scrimm. Coscarelli discusses how Oblivion had such a small budget and the shortest shooting schedule of any Phantasm film at that point, and how they used so much of the unused footage from the original, of course, to sort of save money, as well as to tie the two movies together. They discuss shooting much of the film in the desert, how that was also an economic decision as well. They discuss some of the more ambitious moments in the film, like a Civil War battlefield sequence. Phantasm 4, again, I have kind of mixed feelings about it still, but I like it a lot more watching it now. It is very ambitious for how little money that they really had making the movie. I love the fact that you got to see the Jebediah Morningside side of the Tall Man, sort of Tall Man pre-Tall Man. I thought that was really interesting. And again, that ending, great ending. As far as Phantasm Ravager is concerned, the picture quality and the sound quality on that Blu-ray are both great. We have, as far as extras are concerned, Reflections of Fear, Realizing Phantasm Ravager. Just over 34.5 minutes in length. It includes interviews with A. Michael Baldwin, David Hartman, Reggie Bannister, and Kathy Lester. Hartman discusses meeting Don Coscarelli and pitching him the idea of shooting a Phantasm short film, which Hartman wrote and directed. Coscarelli liked it so much that he wanted to turn it into a series of short films, and those series of short films eventually turned into Phantasm Ravager. Lester discusses her cameo in the film and shares a humorous behind-the-scenes story. Hartman discusses wanting Angus Scrimm to see the completed film and give it his blessing. He screened the film for Angus, very nervously awaiting his reaction, and how after he drove him home after the screening, they had this very nice discussion about just life and mortality and so on and so forth. Hartman discusses the future of the Phantasm series as well. We have the Phantasm Ravager premieres. We have the Los Angeles premiere experience at the Egyptian Theater, in which you can watch the movie with the audio of the crowd who were watching Phantasm Ravager during the premiere of Phantasm Ravager in Los Angeles. At the Egyptian Theater, we have the Austin premiere and Q&A at the Alamo Drafthouse with Don Coscarelli, David Hartman, A. Michael Baldwin, Bill Thornbury, Reggie Bannister, Kathy Lester, and more. We have behind-the-scenes footage, deleted scenes, bloopers and outtakes, trailers. We've got Phantasm and You, a featurette in which David Hartman humorously recaps the events of Phantasm 1 through 4. You have the option to watch the film with an introduction by David Hartman or the Phantasm and You intro. We have an audio commentary with David Hartman and Don Coscarelli. They discuss the similarities between the first film and Ravager, as both had small budgets, small crews, and were shot over an extended period of time. A pretty loaded disc for Phantasm Ravager. I have a lot more mixed feelings about Phantasm Ravager than I do about Phantasm Oblivion. I did a full review of Phantasm Ravager when it was first available on VOD, so go check out that video for a full review of Phantasm Ravager. We have a very nice release on this set for Phantasm Ravager, and I'll leave it at that. On the bonus disc, we have got Phantasmagoria, a feature-length documentary covering Phantasm, through Phantasm Oblivion. It is over 1 hour and 37 minutes in length. It includes interviews with Don Coscarelli, A. Michael Baldwin, Reggie Bannister, Bill Thornberry, Paul Pepperman, Angus Scrimm, D.A. Coscarelli, Kathy Lester, Christopher Stone, Ed Gale, Heidi Morenhout, and Carrie Pryor. Coscarelli discusses his early films, Kenny and Company and Jim the World's Greatest, and how they shaped him as a filmmaker and prepared him for Phantasm. He discovers how he's always been fascinated with the American way of death and the journey a corpse takes from death to being prepared, embalmed, dressed, all of that for the funeral, and how that fascination turned in to Phantasm. Angus Scrimm discusses being cast in Phantasm and how he remained in character all throughout shooting the movie, and he did all of his own stunts in the original Phantasm as well. Bannister and Thornberry discussed their musical backgrounds and the song that they played together during the film. Kathy Lester discusses what a turd the young A. Michael Baldwin was on the set of the original Phantasm. They all discuss that awesome Plymouth Barracuda that they used in the original Phantasm. An awesome car. Coscarelli and Pepperman discussed the creation of the silver spheres, and they filmed the spheres flying around, and how they filmed the spheres flying around, etc., etc. They discussed shooting enough footage for a 3-hour movie and the many different endings they shot for the original Phantasm. They discussed the success of the film worldwide. This segues into Phantasm 2. 9 years later, Coscarelli discusses the Faustian deal that he made with the studio, in which he had to recast the Mike character, and he couldn't cast A. Michael Baldwin, etc., etc. Scrimm discusses returning to the tall man character. Coscarelli discusses making the sequel more action-oriented and turning Reggie into an unlikely action hero. Coscarelli discusses having more money and technology at this point to do some really cool gags with the spheres. Coscarelli says that even though the movie is rooted in the Phantasm universe, it's the most straightforward of the series, and that's because of the studio not wanting any ambiguity in the film. This segues into Phantasm 3. Baldwin discusses the bittersweet quality of reprising his role in Phantasm 3. Thornberry discusses returning to the series as well. They discuss the new characters the film introduced. Coscarelli discusses the new spheres they used in Phantasm 3. They discuss the original ending, in which would have taken place in the North Pole. Coscarelli discusses the final Phantasm film that Roger Avery wrote, which was reportedly an epic, grand-scale affair that they couldn't get the financing for. Because of this, Coscarelli went with the idea of trying to tie the series together on a smaller scale with a lot of the unused footage from the first Phantasm. This, of course, segues into Phantasm Oblivion. They discuss making that movie on such a low budget and utilizing the unused footage from the original for Part 4 for both to tie the series together and for economic reasons as well. They discuss the legacy of Reggie Bannister, the middle-aged bald ice cream man, the sexually frustrated hippie who's actually a big-hearted, super loyal, badass action hero. Very nice, like I said, feature-length, exhaustively detailed, anything and everything you could possibly want to know about Phantasm through Phantasm Oblivion is on Phantasmagoria. Over 1 hour and 37 minutes of wall-to-wall Phantasm. Next up, we've got the Phantasmagorical Mystery Tour, a guided tour of the key Phantasm filming locations with Reggie Bannister. It's 16 minutes and 10 seconds in length. The locations include the fortune teller's house, Mike and Jodi's house, the porch where Reggie and Jodi play guitar, the graveyard, the gates to Morningside Cemetery, the location they use to double as the Red Planet. We have Tall Tales. It's just under 25 minutes in length. It's a newly edited featurette comprised of unused footage from the Phantasmagoria interview with Angus Scrimm. Scrimm discusses the evolution of the Tall Man character and how he prepared to play the character in the first film and developing the look, the iconic look of the Tall Man by scouring at one of the child actors in Jim the World's Greatest. He discusses how they made him look taller in the film by using low angles and by putting lifts on his boots. He discusses the sequels, the makeup effects and appliances he wore in Phantasm 2, shooting on a deserted street in downtown Los Angeles in Part 4, his delight in playing Jebediah Morningside in Part 4. Scream discusses all the fan mail he's received over the years in which fans have attempted to explain the series, and that they've all got different explanations. The series has different meanings for different people, and he thinks that that's one of the greatest elements of the Phantasm series is its ambiguity. So really nice featurette there with the tall man just talking about Phantasm. Next up, we've got Phantasm Genesis. It's a behind-the-scenes look at some of the key stunt sequences from the series. Next up, we have got Fandom, a featurette looking at the enduring nature of Phantasm fandom. It's about 18 and a half minutes in length. It includes interviews with Don Coscarelli, Reggie Bannister, Angus Scrim, A. Michael Baldwin, and Bill Thornberry. They discuss the fandom for the series, both good and bad, including fan interactions at conventions, and a really harrowing story from Bill Thornberry in which a guy dressed all in fatigues forced his way into Bill Thornberry's house and declared that he was the next tall man. So Bill Thornberry, being very cool, took this guy off guard and said, well, hey man, you're such a big fan of Phantasm, how would you like some real authentic Phantasm memorabilia? So the guy was like, oh, sure, yeah. And Thornberry was like, well, okay, if I give you this stuff, will you leave? And the guy was sure. So he gave him some Phantasm goodies, and the guy left. So that could have been a really bad situation. Phantasm fans discussed their love for the series, including rare collectible items from the movies, fans that got to work on the series in various capacities as well also discuss working on those films and their love for the series. Very nice featurette there. And last up, we've got Dear Angus, a tribute to Angus Scrim by longtime friend and collaborator Kristen Deem. It's 20 minutes and 49 seconds in length. Deem reads sort of an open letter that she wrote to Angus posthumously, in which she recalls her fondest memories of Angus, including a lot of personal photos and correspondence she'd shared with him over the years. It is a truly moving and heartfelt dedication to the memory of Angus Scrim, aka Rory Guy. Very, very nice extra. Very emotional, very heartfelt, very, very moving. So that is it, and that is all. An absolutely loaded set from the fine folks over at Arrow. The Phantasm 1 through 5 limited edition box set. Great presentation with the ball here, and lots and lots of extras. I have been completely immersed in the Phantasm films for about a week, and to be honest, I'm kind of looking forward to a bit of a reprieve and to discuss something other than Phantasm, or maybe not. I hope you guys enjoyed both the unboxing and up close and personal look at this set, as well as my full analysis and review of the extras, the picture quality and the sound quality and everything on this set. And my goodness, this video is probably going to be a half hour long, and if you guys have sat through it in its entirety, I just want to say thank you very, very much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.